Essence of Medicine, and today I'm going to start over. Hi, guys. Thank you for joining. This is Essence of Medicine, and today we're talking about the flu. I'm Amanda Armagost.
And I'm Dr. Abbasi for Essence Flu. Amanda, when was the last time you had flu?
I do not get the flu.
Well, everybody gets flu.
No, I don't.
Wow.
I do not get the flu. The last time I do get migraines, but the last time I was sick was with COVID.
Okay.
And I I have a really strong immune system. I rarely get sick. When I get the last time I got the flu, I don't know, but I have gotten COVID.
Mhm.
I got COVID in September.
Have you seen anybody who has a flu?
Yeah.
So
Actually,
what are the symptoms?
neurovirus is going around,
Okay.
which is neurovirus is like pretty much what the children usually get when they're sick at school, isn't it?
No. Well, when you saw the last time somebody has the flu, what were the symptoms?
Throwing up,
Okay. What else?
coughing, sniffling,
Okay.
sore throat,
Okay. Okay.
fever.
Fatigue.
Yep, tired,
Tired.
fever. Oh, when I have the flu, my skin hurts really bad and my muscles hurt.
Mhm.
That's how I know when I have the flu.
That is exactly what I'm getting at. The flu symptoms are very
They're
generalized.
vast, yeah.
They're vast, they're generalized, and mostly what they have in common is fever, heaviness, fatigue, muscle ache, and so on and so forth. They're extremely non-specific. So for some people, is mostly respiratory, but then there's some other group of diseases that they're more respiratory. They
Mhm.
work more on your respiratory system. There's some other group of the viruses. They work more on your GI tract and so on and so forth. So flu is one of those generalized kind of diseases that we have, viral diseases that we have. And the way I see that, or we talk about that, is that the nature didn't come up, I'm going to make a virus called flu. The nature makes so many variation
Yeah.
of viruses, diseases, and so on. And we human, we have to just box them. We have to say, oh, this is this, and this is that. This is COVID. This is SARS. This is influenza. This is flu, and so on and so forth. But nature try almost any variation of viruses that can exist,
Hmm.
and then it becomes like the matter for pathologists and microbiologists and so on to say, okay, these symptoms we box it in this group, these symptoms we box in that group, and now we are better. Even now we can go sequence the DNA or RNA, because we know that the viruses comes in DNA and RNA. We can go and sequence them, and now we're trying to box them. But even I'm going to tell you, even that is artificial, because you see, there's not just this group of DNA with this sequence that make that disease. There are everything between. That there are lots of variation, and I think with the flu is exactly that's the point.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, like, have you ever seen somebody who have Ebola?
No, thank
Why?
God.
Why not? They die. They 90% die. Okay, so nature tries everything. Nature tries some viruses that they mutate. They just you get them 95% you die. Then sort of it is like you have a cow. You kill the cow. You're on an island with a cow. You kill the cow, and then you starve. But then if you're that's what Ebola is. Ebola is you on a deserted island with a cow. You kill the cow, you eat it, you die, you starve. But influenza is like you on an island, you just milk the cow, and then you can go on and on and on. Because it has a low mortality, it is a very
You can
common
become
thing.
stronger pretty much, right?
What's that?
Like because it has a low mortality rate, it can last longer, adapt more, become
Adapt more,
stronger.
become more adapted to you, and that the worst thing a virus can do, that kill his host right away,
Hmm.
because then it's self-limiting. That brand of kind of virus, that and that specific thing about viral influenza, that number one, it has a low mortality. Even COVID if you look at the overall mortality of COVID, it is very low. That's why it could spread because it wouldn't kill you right
Hmm.
away. But then it would, um, and you're still able. If you have COVID, you're still able to go and interact with people. That's what it makes it
Depending,
dangerous.
depending on like when I had COVID, I could not do one thing.
But
Well, I've had
before,
COVID three
yeah,
times.
but before you are really sick, you still are to
Yeah,
some level
you spread it
functional.
around.
You spread it around.
Hmm.
Now, now again, we call COVID, SARS, influenza, flu, and we try to box them within specific. Like influenza is mostly if you have like additional respiratory
Yeah,
symptoms and so on and so forth, and it's
and
a
then
little heavier and so on.
neurovirus is when you're throwing up and stuff,
Yeah,
right?
so GI tract is involved in some more than the other. But I think what we need to know about the flu is that the ever changing nature of flu. As a matter of fact, I think I think nature is just fantastic. Even if there are viruses and so on. Now, this is one of the things that about the flu virus is that it have a series of genes that they can reshuffle and make different proteins. Literally, it is built into the DNA or the gene of a virus that it change itself. And every time it changes itself a little, it bypasses your immune system. So this is the most, as a matter of fact, the most ingenious way to keep going by reshuffling the genes, making new genes that make new protein that didn't exist, so it can bypass your immune system. And then those small changes, we call them shift. Those big changes, we call them drift. And we know that every time there is a now, and it's all statistical. We know that this shift happen in that group of gene. They happen every so often, and then you get a milder flu again because you are already immune against the last one you got. You always get a new flu. It's not the same flu you get. But then once a while, there is the so-called genetic drift, and everything is different. And your immune system has no idea how to deal with that. Then lots of people get sick, and then there's a new cycle starts again and again. And there's another piece in the biology that has the same kind of mechanism built into it to create new proteins and changing the genetic and the protein in a almost identical way. Do you know what that is?
No.
That's our immune system.
Oh,
So when we are born, we have a series of genes, and our immune system, our DNA, use the same mechanism. It reshuffles those proteins and literally can make more combination of proteins that there are atom in the universe statistically.
wow.
Yes. So by and then practically create any possible antibody, and then our body comes with this ginormous amount of antibodies, and as a matter of fact, that is why the thymus is an organ, is a gland behind our sternum. That is a big gland in children, but then when we are adult, that gland actually vanishes away or goes away,
Wait, what's the reason why?
because that is the place that our body decide what of those antibodies it's going to keep, which one is going to eliminate,
Mm.
and they get selected and eliminated in thymus, just behind our sternum. And that's why children have big thymus. Oh, there's a beautiful story I need to tell you. We doctors have done crazy things. Okay, um, in 18th centuries, we doctors, all of a sudden we had these children we called that they just die.
SIDS,
SIDS, sudden infant
death syndrome.
death syndrome. So obviously the doctors in 18th century or 19th century, they want to know, why do these kids die? In 19th century, they finally start opening up and see all of them have big thymus, big gland behind the sternum. From adult, nobody would really dissect healthy children, right?
Yeah.
They would only get these children, and from adult we knew there's nothing there or very little there. So they thought this is the reason this kid
Oh,
died.
like an overgrown or something.
Yeah, they thought is actually that is the reason children die. And somebody came with a great idea how to make that time smaller so children don't die.
What was it?
Radiation. We discovered that, how to create radiation so they would put healthy children in the radiation to reduce the size of their thymus. And this kid would die of cancer
Yeah.
and so on and so forth because you see, that is not having a good understanding about about the knowledge, taking the knowledge to a step further than really evidence would show you.
You see a problem, but you don't understand the problem.
You don't understand the entirety of that. No, the observation was okay. These kids just die, and all of them have big timers, but they're infants, they are small children. They never went bothered to go and there was no reason to go and dissect a healthy person to
Right.
find out that all small children have big timers. So this is the backstory of that I had to say. But then, so in the nature, there are two mechanisms, or actually many mechanisms, but one of them is the viruses that they shuffle their gene to bypass your immune system. Immune system use the same mechanism, shuffles its gene to create new protein to fight that. And there is something extraordinarily similar, but extraordinarily amazing that in nature that has to do the same thing to fight the viruses. So, you know what that is? Bacteria.
Oh no, I was gonna guess something in the human body.
Yeah, no. See, we're mammals, we are big and so on, but the primary target of virus are not human. They don't even care about us.
Yeah, we're just there.
We are just there. We are just like byproduct of their. The primary target of viruses are bacteria, because in a milliliter, let's say in an ounce of seawater, there are like millions and millions of bacteria, viruses, and that there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of bacteria. The true life on planet is the fight between viruses and bacteria. This is the true life. So bacteria try to kill viruses, try to kill bacteria. Bacteria try to fight back viruses.
But does the bacteria ever try to go and kill viruses on their own?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. See,
so it's mutual. They're both trying to kill each other.
Well, they try to survive, take the overhand to other. Like in a liter of seawater, or in a few liter of seawater, there are more bacteria than humans are on the planet.
Okay,
so that's a true war.
So forgive me for this question because it might sound a little bit dumb. So are they like looking for each other to fight? Like, for example,
yes,
they're okay. So
one
they're
is
like
food for the other.
Okay, they're looking for each other. It's not that they end
Yes.
up in the same spot and they kill each other.
No. Well, they are in the same spot.
But are they going to that?
Yes,
that make-
yes.
Okay.
The bacteria need to either they have to fight viruses because viruses are into getting them. Okay, it's what we call evolutionary the race that bacteria try to bypass the immune system of the viruses try to bypass the bacteria's defenses, and the bacteria have to fight them back, make sure they are not destroyed by viruses. As a matter of fact, there are special viruses that are specialized on bacteria. And now we humans, we are using those viruses that specialized to get into bacteria, to literally smuggle human DNA into bacteria to make proteins that is useful to us.
Wow.
Like insulin. For a long time, like we have to go to slaughterhouses and kill like 1,000 pigs and get their pancreas, which then we would get insulin from it. And that insulin has one amino acid different than human. So sometimes people have allergy to that. By the way, human anatomy and physiology and pigs is so similar, it's scary. And but then we figured out finally how to smuggle human insulin DNA into bacteria with those vectors, with those viruses, because those viruses are specialized in that. So all our insulins are produced by bacteria that we have modified exactly to do that by hijacking viruses mechanism. Now imagine now we are just a byproduct. We are just not even important. I mean, viruses don't even are they're not even looking for us. They probably they get lost in us. That's
Yeah.
why they attack us and so on.
Yeah.
We are irrelevant. But bacteria is what they yum yum. Okay. Now,
Sorry, I have another question.
yeah.
No, it's okay. Keep
So
going.
viruses try to get into bacteria. Bacteria have tried to fight them back. Guess what bacteria do? They take those pieces of viruses, they build that into their own DNA, and then when they see something similar, start fighting
They
it back.
remember the battle.
The path the bacteria use to get those pieces of DNA of viruses built into our own DNA so they can fight it back, there's a mechanism there that it just about less than 10 years ago we really understood. It's called CRISPR.
You talked about that before.
Yes, and that is the most amazing kind of things that bacteria has a mechanism to split their own DNA and implement a very specific genome in their own DNA so they can go and look back and compare it to what's coming. Oh, this is dangerous. Oh, yes, this is dangerous. Go fight it. And now we are using that to treat genetic diseases. Like, like there are tons of genetic disease like in Marfan syndrome or Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and thousands other genetic disease that there is a mutation in our genome which literally make us sick. Like a protein is not doing the job properly or an enzyme is not doing its job. Now, with that mechanism that actually bacteria invented to fight the viruses, we can go and fix that because we can go and literally split our own DNA in a specific location and put the right genome there rather than having the bad genome. So, and all that mechanism actually is a consequence of us understanding how flu actually works.
Wow.
Okay, so I'm talking about every bad thing has a good thing in it. Our understanding of how flu works is how we can treat these truly sick kids that without our intervention have a life expectancy of sometimes days, sometimes weeks, sometimes years. But we can now, that is the knowledge that we have gained there that help us to treat a lots of patients.
Why is there a flu season?
Now,
Because-
what is the flu season? Tell me what flu season is.
Well, my understanding of being sick is
Mostly
that
fall, right? Fall, winter.
yeah, but what I understand about being sick is that you don't get sick from the cold.
No,
like-
we have a word for that, catching cold.
Well,
right?
no, we've talked about this before, so I just want to remind myself if I'm remembering it correctly.
How does
Being like going, what I'm saying is going from a warm building like where we are
Mhm.
right now to outside without a jacket on,
Mhm.
going to the cold, is that going to make you're not going to get sick from going to the cold?
Well, we call it catching a cold because over hundreds of years we have noticed in a cold environment, it's more likely you get flu or catching a cold.
Yeah, but my understanding of that was maybe because when it's cold, we're more locked up, and so all of these viruses.
I'm going to
or-
answer that.
Yeah, but is that true?
No.
Okay, tell me.
Okay, so all these viruses are respiratory viruses, correct?
Mhm.
Or it are in the category we call. What that means? What does that mean? They are respiratory viruses.
Chest.
They go through your lung, nose, and so on. As a matter of fact, one of the main sign of having a flu and so on, you have runny nose. because your virus is trying to get out of your system
Hmm.
to get to other people through excrement of your nose and so on. So, but that is not at the beginning. That's not when you catch it, but
It's,
that's when
yeah,
you are
when it's
trying to
getting rid
give
of
it.
it. Yeah.
Now, what happened? What is specific to the cold air? Cold air has less humidity.
It's dry.
Why? Because the cold air, literally, that those atom of water in the air, they coalesce and become precipitation. So it's drier. What happened when the air is dry? Your mucosa, your in your nose, in your lung, there is less fluid there, and that mucosa, that drier mucosa or respiratory system, it is that fluid there, that mucosa there, that mucus there is actually a barrier. Like we talk about, like people when they have like a respiratory problem, they have this phlegm and so on, or the the nose is running and so on. That is actually your body creating a barrier between the viruses from outside and your body, and by excreting it out, trying to get rid of those things. Now, in a cold environment, when there is less humidity, your mucosa becomes drier. That mucus and the layer that is protect you is less, and literally you have what happens when you have it like a dry hands
Your skin is dry and peeling,
peeling, and then sometimes even you have
flaking,
literally you have like crevices, and you can't even bleed sometimes if your
from
hand is.
being too dry. Your lips, yeah.
Yeah, now imagine all of that happens inside. All of a sudden there's the opening for those
Mm,
viruses to get in you.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and that is what, so truly you can catch a cold in the sense that it opens up your system to the virus to get in easier and bypass to your own initial defense mechanism.
So, okay, so if it's like a cold, snowy day, you're less likely to catch a cold than on a cold, dry day.
I don't know believe that they have done any ever really a good comparison to that, if that's really true or not. So I cannot comment on that. But it is not by chance that you get the cold more in fall and winter,
Mm-hmm.
mostly toward the end of the fall when the temperature are dropping. Your body was all well, used to this humidity, and all of a sudden it's all dry and so
Yeah,
on. And now all of a sudden you're more likely to catch those viruses, and those viruses are more likely to bypass your in,
your little
primary
protective
defenses,
layer.
yeah, to get to your system.
And then there's no really medication to take to fight against the flu, or is it mostly rest?
Well, the problem with the flu is it is like those old philosophers said, um, you don't ever swim in the same river twice,
Yeah.
because the second time you're not the same man and the river is not the same river. You never catch the same flu again. So, and that variation in the genetic composition of the flu is that makes it really hard for our body to fight it, but even develop something that a medication. Now, most of that, what we do with the flu is we fight the symptoms. We support your body, your immune system to boost it up, and hydration.
Mm-hmm.
You remember,
Yeah.
yeah, and hydration, and
Humidifier.
that probably is a good idea. Except you have some other stuff in your
It's
humidifier
not
that are
clean, yeah.
spreading, yeah, and so on.
Which
So
has happened to me actually. One time sorry, this is like a really short story, but I bought a humidifier from the thrift store and then I plugged it in immediately, didn't wash it or anything. I swear to God, I was sick for 2 weeks.
okay, so there's an easy way to treat that. You just put water and
Vinegar.
add a little bit of a not vinegar, uh, bleach.
Mm.
You add now 1 to 20, 1 to 10 bleach in that, and you let it circulate. Bleach is the magical thing that gets rid of almost everything. As a matter of fact, in a very bad situation where people have infection, they have to open up their belly and so on, I do the same thing. We put a little bleach in lots of water. Don't use it
Not straight. Yeah.
not straight, because as for some reason straight bleach doesn't work as good as diluted
Hmm.
bleach. Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, it's
That's
just,
interesting.
and so but we use that all the time. So yeah, humidifier is good, but make sure it's
A
clean and
lot
so
of
on.
people I've heard, what do you think about this? When they have the flu, they take zinc.
No, we know zinc is a major part of our what our immune system uses to for certain mechanisms. So supplement absolutely makes sense.
When I'm
Good
sick,
nutrition makes sense.
yeah, of course. I mean, you have to support your body. When I'm sick, I like to try and take extra vitamin C.
Mhm. And we know as well vitamin C is a huge part of our not only our immune system, but guess what? What is the main sign of vitamin C deficiency? The disease that they would call them sailor disease when the British, God bless their heart, they went and messed up the entire world with their navy because they were good at building ship. But something that limited them was this disease that they couldn't go too long because their sailor would die.
I don't remember what it's called. Syphilis.
Gingivitis, vitamin C deficiency.
Gingivitis is from vitamin C deficiency?
Yes, yes.
I thought gingivitis was from not flossing.
Well, um, since nobody else has these days vitamin C deficiency, you don't really see
Yeah,
that.
but I never knew that. I
Yeah.
wonder.
So what this sailor had, they would go and all of a sudden they start bleed from their
Yeah, they're
mouth,
gums.
gums and so on. That called it gingivitis, and they just couldn't, they couldn't eat, they couldn't do anything. They were bleeding and so on. And what happens then? You have opened your entire
Yeah.
system up to this bacteria and viruses and so on. And until they figured out if you eat, they tried everything. As a matter of fact, it was a big race about how to prevent that. Once they solved that, but by having lime, literally having lemon and lime and on the
Citrus.
citrus tree to have vitamin C, as a matter of fact, that's how they found out what this is. It is a vitamin, vital amine, because
Amine.
amino acids. So they don't. Our knowledge was so patchy, but we figured out we need certain things. We call them amines, amino acids that we need to live. They are vital. These amino acids are vital to our survival. And then we started with, in the order we discovered them, A, B, C, and so on and so forth. And that's why we have so many vitamin Bs, because we figured out, well, by the time we already passed B, there's some other group in that group. Then we had to call them vitamin. And then,
B12, B6.
well, there was vitamin B1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
up to 12. But then we figured out some of them we don't really need. It's just, okay, the 2, 3, 4, we don't really need
I
that.
think you can still buy vitamin 2 or B2 at the store.
Yeah, well, we figured out many of those are not real vitamins. So we are covering our patchy knowledge by going back, numbering them, and then taking some of those numbers out. So vitamin B1, B2, B6, B12. But who have heard of vitamin B7? Huh?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, well, that's a different story, but a very interesting story. And I can keep going and going about intricacy between this knowledge and so on. But let's come back to flu.
Yeah, what's the difference between the cold and the flu?
Well, on the medical side, the borders are very, very fuzzy. Okay, but catching common cold is a little bit of a different kind of virus than a flu, than influenza.
To me, the cold is a little bit less demanding, on your body.
But that's exactly what I would say, that the common cold virus is a little different virus that has more general symptoms. When you get to the flu, you have more GI or respiratory symptom. When you get to influenza, it really hits you hard and so on and so forth. Now, we just, again, this is us human. Some doctors may disagree with me, but we human just have to box it. Whereas in nature, there is a graduation of everything. Like we call them white, we call them black. In reality, there is every color on the color chart.
Yeah.
That's from white to black. and we are just boxing them white, black, Asian.
It
There's
just
any
it just makes
variation,
it makes humans feel more comfortable to identify some
and it's
things.
dumb in a way because then we miss opportunities,
Mhm.
both in the human nature that we say white and black, and if in the viruses again there is lots of variation there
Yeah.
that they behave differently. All of a sudden, common cold is behave like the other one, and vice versa because even though it's a common cold, because we said if you have that sequence, you are common cold virus, versus if you have that sequence, you have flu. But then there's sometimes lots of between that they cross over and so on. Nature is amazing. We cannot
Totally.
box the nature. That's what it is. So, but I think that sort of covers it for
I feel
flu.
like sorry, I do feel like there's another flu season, which is winter to spring.
Okay. Um.
Do you
No.
think, or is that just my?
I know that from the winter to spring, lots of pollen comes out. You
Oh,
have allergies to this pollen, and then literally, and that's where the nature try to replicate itself, the plants, and then we react to that. One of the our first reaction to that is, you remember, our first barrier is our mucosa. Our mucosa get all this pollen and said, "What is this? I don't like this." Start fighting it, and by try to fighting it as well, reduces our barrier. It is like you start fighting something that you really don't need to fight, and the real bad soldiers, the bad actors, they bypass, and
it's a distraction.
yeah, then all of a sudden some viruses may use that distraction exactly to get
Hmm.
there, because pollen really don't do us harm.
Yeah, just like what the news does. It's like, look at these,
Yeah, and
and then
then
there's like major stuff going on. It's like, yeah.
exactly.
Well, thank you guys for watching. This was Essence of, or did you have anything else you wanted to?
No, actually, I think we covered it.
Thank you guys for watching. This was Essence of Medicine, and today we talked about the flu. I'm Amanda Armagost.
And I'm Dr. Abbasi for Essence. And don't ever take nature for granted. It's much more multifaceted than you think.
Have a good weekend.
Bye.
That was a good one.
Yeah. No, that's something I can talk about.